First of all, thank you for being here in the just after food slot. I hope I'll be entertaining you. I'll start with a very short introduction to developer experience, because who's here to just learn more about developer experience in general? So, yeah, okay. So the first slides are especially for you, and then we'll do the deep dive. But there's some more surface content first. So first, what are the core principles of developer experience? And then I'll do a turn back after all of this and show and explain why that is important for the main topics that I have. So first, I've boiled down to 5 principles, developer experience. So first one is findability, the ability to find the APIs that you're looking for, kind of obvious one. 2 is discoverability, the ability to find APIs that you are not looking for, but that are actually relevant to you. 3, self-service, the ability to get access to an API without having to interact with too many people, or as little interaction as possible. 4, trust. This is a weird one, but this is really important, is giving developers the ability to trust you so that they actually will invest in an integration with you, because it's a lot of work. And then 5, friction. The reduction of friction or the optimization of friction. Getting just enough friction in just the right places. Can you see it? Yeah? Yeah. So that you can balance the ability to quickly get access with security, safety, monetization, governance, and all of those other things. So it's not just blind, get rid of all the friction. It's about getting the right friction in the right places. Okay. So, with that first introduction to developer experience in general, this is my objective today. I would like to change your mind. I like trying that. I try every time I do a presentation. But I'd like to expand the way you're looking at developer experience from something that is about APIs specifically, or that is even only for developers, to something that's much, much broader, and that's part of a much bigger transformation that is happening today in technology all around us. Basically, this is what I'll be talking about, going from API experience to developer experience to interface experience. First, who am I? I'm Kristof Van Tomme, CEO of PRONOVIX. I love gardening. That's me with the first successful apple grafts that I've ever done in my life. I'm super proud of this stuff. If you're into apple grafting or any other kind of gardening stuff, or APIs, of course, also, please come and talk with me. I'm CEO of PRONOVIX. We're a company that specializes in developer portals. We build portals that evolve with your business. So it's not a SaaS product that's just a thing and then it has its own roadmap. We build a roadmap that's adjusted to your needs and that evolves together with your understanding of what your business is trying to get out of APIs. We do a bunch of community stuff. I love Nordic APIs. Because they have the similar philosophy as we like to have in the community, share knowledge broadly, get people together, learn from each other. We've got the Devportals awards like that. If you're interested in learning more about great developer experiences, go check it out. And then we got a bunch of other content and events that we are doing. So check it out. One of the key things I want to pitch is the podcast that I'm the host of, the API Resilience podcast. It's a philosophy podcast about APIs, basically. So, but without further ado, what is the role of APIs in the wider economy? We've heard some weird stuff this morning, right? Like the opening session, well, not the opening, but the keynote from Z was kind of a bit scary. So, but a lot of what he was saying really talks to how I am feeling things and what I am seeing happening in the world around this. It's like we all know here that APIs are super important. It's not a question. And yet, it is so hard to actually do something useful with it. And like to get your business to really fully get it and actually take full advantage of the full potential of APIs. And there's some problems here because This is from the World Trade Organization. 90% of the business population works in small companies. More than half of the GDP is generated in small companies. Small companies don't have developers, normally. There's a few exceptions, of course, but unless it's a developer company, normally small companies don't have an IT department. They don't have the money to build custom integrations or to even use your APIs directly. So what can they do? How does a small business like this one, it's a bicycle shop and coffee shop in one. It's really cool, I think. But how do they get access to your APIs? Or how do they integrate with your business? If your target audience is small businesses also, because some organizations just work with large companies, but most companies are doing business with small and medium-sized companies. How do you interact with them? Are APIs always the solution? Not really, right? If not, then how do people find out how they can interact with you? How do you expose that? You might have a developer portal for your APIs, but what about the other stuff? The other ways of interacting with you that might flow through your APIs, but it is not an API per se. And there's this thing that I think there's an opportunity we have as an industry today to take this concept of developer experience that we've learned about how to expose APIs, those 5 principles I mentioned in the beginning, about how to create a good developer experience, that we can make it more broadly applicable and do a lot more with it, and that might actually solve these earlier problems that I was talking about. Because I think that developer experience could go from this niche thing, which is like, yeah, it's, developers, to something that's much more valuable for an organization, a universal function. Now, first, I've got this picture. I sneaked it in. Is Bill this morning. These numbers, I was surprised because, well, I think that probably the companies that were answering were mostly small companies, because this is not the reality that I see in the enterprise. Like, there's no enterprise company that is making, 1/4 of their revenue through APIs, like through APIs. Maybe there's some value flowing through the APIs, but they will not acknowledge that it actually is the APIs that is generating that revenue. This is not the reality that I have seen. And instead, what I have seen is that there's been this kind of loop that we've all been together as the API community. A couple of years ago, it's now more than a couple of years, but when the API darlings, the Stripes and the Twilios, started actually making real money using APIs and getting these huge valuations, everybody was like, oh my God, this is the next thing. We all need to have APIs. We're going to monetize it, and we're going to be stinking rich just selling API calls to developers. That doesn't make sense. So this was a dream that originally was sold, and this is how developer experience became like a really big thing. But that kind of petered out a little bit, and it's disappeared a bit on the background. Next up, and this is where we are right now, is developer experience as part of platform engineering, where we're trying to make the experience for developers better so they'll be more productive, so that our organization will have less inefficiencies and stuff like that. But it's both of these viewpoints are treating like it's this developer exceptionalism or API fetishism that I've sometimes called it, which is this idea that developers are this special people that you need to treat differently than everybody else, and you have to like create something specifically only for them so that they can then do something like otherwise on the background. And I think it's wrong. It's not right with developers, and it's not right with the rest of the organization, because I think that these things that developers are using are also useful for other people. So I think it's better to look at developers as pathfinders, people that are pioneering, that are looking around and figuring out like how are we going to automate interactions, how are we going to accelerate things, how are we going to build these new interface flows that we're trying to build in our organization. And landscape, this is from the API Days community. That's 2022. This is now. Like, it just keeps growing and expanding. It's becoming more and more complex. Bill also mentioned this other trend that's happening, where you would used to just buy one API management solution, and you had something of everything, and you were kind of done. Now you have all these best-of-breed solutions. That's also there's many more different patterns, different technologies, and it's become really, really complex. So instead, I think developer experience, and this is the first step, I think, is that developer experience needs to become a universal thing that cuts across your whole landscape, that is improving the ability for people to use your application programming and other interfaces from one central place, instead of having like a good developer experience for the REST APIs from department X and okay developer experience for people from department Y. And yeah, and we have some other stuff that's not even documented and that you can't even find out about. But what is the true value of APIs? Where should we be looking for the real ROI for all of these investments that we're doing? If you look at the acronym, Application Programming Interface, I've been staring a lot at this. The first two words, that's why it's developers. But that last word, what is that really an interface? Have you actively considered that? As a developer, probably you have like the view model and so on. There's probably a concept, but this is really, really interesting and exciting because interfaces are everywhere. and actually, they're a really important part of how organizations work and interact with each other. And only thing is that it's kind of like folkloric, because different departments have different ways that they think about interfaces. Different parts of the industry have different ideas about how you're supposed to interact with them. Like, make it concrete. Like, sales has CRM solutions. There's e-commerce, but there's like different e-commerces for different types of products that you want to buy. It's all very disjointed and very, fragmented, really. And I think what really is going on is that when we're talking about digital transformation, what we're really talking about is interface transformation. Let me explain. Digital interfaces are everywhere. They're expanding how we're doing things, and at the same time, they're creating a much more diverse landscape, and they're also unifying the way that we can interact with organizations. But actually, where this all started was with people becoming interfaces for organizations. I don't know, have you ever thought about it, that a salesperson is an interface for your company? Have you thought about that? Or your HR person is another interface with a very specific function. So what we've done with organizations is that we've created these roles that turned people into an interface for a specific function with its own rules and structures and constraints that help them to do a good job. Now, what we're doing with software is that we're, first of all, replacing some of those people with purely, fully digital interfaces, like e-commerce, where you can just buy something and you don't even have to talk with somebody unless something goes wrong. Or where actually, every human interface out there is becoming constrained through digital interfaces that are facilitating their jobs and that are helping them to do like the job according to the procedure in a way that is going to cost less back and forward when something is wrong or certain information is missing. Now, all of this, I think, is about to be supercharged, because when you start having AI agents, and this is my only AI slide, I think, but when you have AI agents, possibly very soon, that start acting on our behalf, you don't want them to send emails to the CEO of a company because you have a complaint to file. Because if they can't find the support address or something like that, that is what's going to happen. So this shift from human interfaces that are very unconstrained to digital interfaces or digitally mediated interfaces, I think is about to it's accelerating, and we'll see a lot more of that. When you saw what Z was talking about in the morning, part of that is what he's also talking about. That the shift, like we need to watch out that if we don't have APIs for certain functions, people will go around it and figure out other ways to do things. And if you put a bot on that, it's going to get really, really ugly really fast. So, but then what does that mean for your whole interface landscape? So I hope that, I switched the slide, but it doesn't matter. I hope that I've convinced you that you need to think a little bit further than just the API silo, that you need to think about other digital interfaces you have as an organization and how you're going to expose those. But how should you treat those other interfaces? Well, actually, exactly the same way that you're planning to treat your APIs. The same things that apply for developer experience for APIs also apply here. You need discoverability, you need findability, you need self-service, trust, and friction, like well applied so that it actually helps you to fulfill your business goals. And then with all of that, I've got a question to you. Are you thinking about, what do you think? Are you planning to have non-API interfaces on your developer portal, if you have a developer portal? How are you doing that? Is there anybody who already has non-API interfaces on their portal next to their APIs? No? Have you seen, I saw this on the portal from Adyen. They have a payment gateway API. And on the same documentation page where they explain the API, they also talk about their point of sales systems. Because maybe you could just buy a machine instead of using an API to build something custom. So this is the thinking that's behind it. With that, if you want to learn more, this is the kind of stuff we do. We build portals for APIs and other stuff. And that's our newsletter if you want to subscribe. And with that, I'll close it off here.